All right, here we go with another Mandela effect. So with the words, when words, and I'm calling this shocking Mandela effect, just trying to be funny, I guess. But I was listening to my playlist. I'm trying to go through my playlist of near-death experiences, and I've got a bunch in there. I've broken it up into long segments, medium-sized segments, and then quick videos. And as I'm driving to work, I'm listening to these and I'm thinking, oh, I've got to delete that one out and that one out. And I don't know. I go back and I forget which ones they are. So it's still a mess. But as I'm listening to the playlist on near death experiences, a person who has, some medical authority used this word. I was like, huh, that's not how I remember it. Now, let me state I was a firefighter 25 years ago and an EMT, and I would call these devices. Well, I would often just nickname it a defib. Get the defib or check the defib or whatever. Managing a lot of facilities too, I've had to have these devices all over the place for various reasons, but in different settings. But you have the defibs in all the places on the wall every so often, and y'all are familiar with this, right? You know what I'm talking about here. So when the person who knows what it is called it, and I've heard this word enough in my life that I should have heard it pronounced like this before. But when this person said it, as soon as they said it, I thought, huh, they must not know what it's actually called. But no, wait a minute, they would know. Certainly they know. Wait a minute, did I did I just change realities? Is something switching on me? So I went and looked, and sure enough, what I always called. Now go ahead and say it. What do you call this device? This device for AD, shocking the heart, bringing it back to life. Somebody's stopped beating, and you get that thing out, put the pads on them. What do you call it? Well, I'm going to tell you what I've always called it, and what I've known it as since I was a firefighter 25 years ago. It was always a defibrillator, and I would call it a defib. Just like this company here, Defib Tech, that's what they named their company. And I guess defib is an appropriate nickname for this device. However, when this person said defibrillator, I was like, what? Where'd that R come from? A defib, a what? So I've always called it a defibrillator. It's never been that. That is the incorrect way to say it in this world. But now this is where Wendy used to get so irate with me because she would say how the gall, the nerve, the arrogance of anybody to think of me particularly to think that my memory is so great that it trumps reality itself. She just gets so mad because I would say no, that's changed. Okay, I do not think my memory is so great that it trumps reality. And that's not where the Mandela effects are coming from. It's just when you've experienced Mandela effects, when you've, hardcore, you've seen this thing change, reality can change on you. So, then when you see other things, you're like, I used to many times just discount it. I would say, oh, I must have had it wrong all this time. Oh, the stoplights must have always been red on top, and I always thought they were green in my youth. Whatever it is. I always thought it was mirror, mirror on the wall. You you think these things until you have a hardcore flip flop switch. Back in 2016, when I was first inundated with a realization that the world around me was changing. Let's not get into the who's changing argument. It's not the world is changing. I'm the one who's changing. I'm popping into different realities. Okay, whatever. The world is changing, or I'm popping in. Whichever one it is, let's save that argument for later. It's not even an argument. Just table that. Okay. The purpose of this video is to talk about this word defibrillator or defib. I can't even say it. It's just so foreign to me. I want to go back to 2016. Everybody, I mean, hand in hand with the Mandela effect is saying I have tinnitus, right? I mean, how many times has the Mandela effect community said, I have tinnitus? Now, you're going to hear where I'm going with this. Back in 2016, people were saying I have tinnitus. That's what everybody, and that's what I knew the word to be. And yet, even at that time, when I was Mandela affected with my tinnitus, I was saying, it sure does seem, it feels like that word should be tinnitus. It just doesn't sound right as tinnitus. To me, there's a memory of tinnitus, not tinnitus. But everyone I knew, all the medical professionals and everybody out there was sure that it was tinnitus. And that's that ringing in your ears, tinnitus. But that is not the correct word. Now, I did a video on that. I showed all kinds of residuals showing, just like I'm going to do with this one, showing, medical professionals referring to it as tinnitus. There's some little bleed through frequency, vibration, whatever you want to call it. That reality still is here a little bit in those old articles and blogs and advertisements where tinnitus was what it was known as instead of tinnitus. And I pulled those out and I showed them, just say, look, it's not just my memory that this used to be. Here's some other residuals that it's bleeding through into this reality in some way. So same thing here with defibrillators. For me, that's what it was. That's what it should be. That's what it sounds like naturally. And it is defib. Now, it's got an R in there. But with the tinnitus one, it switched back. So now the proper way to refer to the ringing of the ears is actually tinnitus. And that is what, so for me, that's a flip-flop. It's gone from kind of a flip-flop. It's gone from where it was tinnitus, and I knew tinnitus didn't sound right to me, but I went with it, and now it's gone to tinnitus. It's back to tinnitus. It's been like that for years for me now. And I've got a theory about that too. I've got a theory about why things flip-flop, but then they stay stable for so long. I've got a little bit of a theory. So anyway, I just want to flip through some of so this is an ad on, I think, Facebook Marketplace. I usually clip the link and put it up there if anybody wants to double check me, but they are calling it a defibrillator. That's exactly what I know it as. Here's a band. I don't know how old they are, but they're from Texas, and they're called the Defibrillators, and they got there's a little ambulance behind them there. Oh shoot, I had another picture of them, and it looks like it didn't download. It was them with their ambulance. Shoot, I'm sorry I don't have it for you, but there's another picture of these guys if you want to look up the group, and it'll be them standing in front of their ambulance. So they're doing kind of like a bluegrass or country music type album, and they're associating it to defibs. This quiz here, the CPR first aid the automatic external defibrillator is part of the questions on their test and it's talking about CPR and all that stuff. Oh, there it is, the defibrillators. I do have it, and there's the picture of them in front of their ambulance, and they're known as the defibrillators. Here we got a Zoll AED Plus defibrillator. I mean, certainly these people who are in the business, I mean, it's got an SKU number. I mean, look at the title, defibrillator, but it's not the right word. I don't know what it is. This is reality, I guess. I don't know if you can hear it, but the cat is just going crazy in the background now. Probably because I'm calling reality out. Reality's getting upset, so it's sending some sort of interference my way. In this case, it's a very annoying cat that just will not shut up. I'm sorry. I know Quantum of Consciousness, he's really a cat guy. He loves cats. I can't stand them. These are not my cats. They're my wife's. But I have to feed them. I have to put up with them. That noise was me swatting the thing away. I know I'm just a bad person for not liking cats, but I just put up with it. Oh, you can see the proper spelling in the short answer here. Defibrillator. Whatever. I like defibrillator. It sounds more right, more correct. And there's a difference between that and pacemakers. But so this is another website. This is like the Council of Defibrillators. It's shoot, I missed the title on that page, but it was like the Council of these things. I clipped this wrong, but anyway, you can see Public access defibrillators. This is a council for public access defibrillators. Again, we've got another medical equipment supplier. Look what they're selling. Yet that is the wrong word. You would think that a medical equipment supplier would know the proper spelling. Memco is another one. They're selling these pads, and they are spelling it incorrectly. And yeah, these pads do cost that much. I've had to buy that stuff, and it's expensive. Another medical supplier selling the incorrect name. And here's a Heart Saver AED. It must be the manual or something. And it's actually I don't know what they're selling here. It looks like it's a book. It's a manual, okay, on the defibrillator. What can I tell you? The world is definitely, medical experts are calling this by the wrong name. I, as a firefighter back then, would call it a defibrillator. This R in there makes no sense to me. And I would not be surprised if it flip-flopped back, just like tinnitus came back to my reality, and it is now tinnitus. This might come back to defibrillator. I could have, let me just state, I could have brought to you so many more pictures than just this here. I just don't have time. But there's, man, I could have dug and showed you 100 plus images and credentials and links of people calling this thing a defibrillator. Wendy would argue, y'all just got it wrong. All these people got it wrong. Just like you, Guy, you've got a bad memory. Everybody's got a bad memory. That's stop being so arrogant to think that you are catching reality change around you. That's not what's happening. That's what Wendy would get so upset about. I know that reality changes. So for me, I don't like to throw stuff out there that, I might not be 100% on, but at the same time, because I know how reality does this all the time, I do like to call it out. So here I am calling it out again. It's my hobby, I guess, to do so. So have I, let's just get down to it. Have I jumped from the reality that said defibrillator to this new one that's got defibrillator? Have I jumped from defibrillator reality to the defibrillator world? And why? What causes the jump in one dimension to another? And trying to think of my words as I talk, because I don't write this out in advance. For me, it kind of feels like I can move, or somehow we move, I move. I'm just going to talk about the eye, in the eye for me, because this is my observation, my experience, that we move dimensionally between different versions of reality, but they blend. It's not like a crisp cut. It's not like you go from this world and then you leave that world and go into the next world in a clean, sharp division. It's like they blend. So you start sliding over into the other reality. You're still picking up stuff from the old reality, but you're picking stuff up from the new. And that's where you get these contradictions, these bleed throughs, these residuals. And there's something, and I call it either reality itself, like the personality of reality as a conscious sentient being, or keepers of reality, where I've seen thousands of these minions that are dark, creepy beings that dislike me because they dislike it when I talk about it. It's like their job is to keep reality stable in our brain, to keep it consistent in our mind. So anybody calling this stuff out starts getting interference from these keepers of reality, or reality itself. But there's a personification of reality, or of all the realities strewn together. There's a personification that I've felt for many times. Many times I've empathically felt this. It does not want to be called out. It does not want you to talk about it. It wants you to stay in your lane. It wants you to doubt your own memories and not notice these things. And it attacks. I mean, it'll outright attack you to stop you from talking about this. Anyway, it was my playlist on NDEs that got me got me on this little topic here of defibrillators, because somebody was talking about bringing somebody back to life on a defibrillator. There's more I'd like to talk about the NDEs. Some of these folks, I got to tell you, some of these folks. There's this one blonde gal who does like YouTube and interviews and things like that, and she sounds so much like people in the Mandela effect community, because all these people have had this hardcore experience where they've gone through the other side. They've had the, conversations with the light, and they come back with new gifts, and they have new eyes. Their eyes are open to the world around them, and it's an amazing experience to them, and they're all talking about it. But they're also, I've noticed that people are bringing in their own worldview, their own biases. There's certain ways that there's things that they want to talk about, things that they don't. If it doesn't fit the way they want to see the world, they don't want to talk about it. Specifically in this one video, I was going to do a separate video on this, but this lady had gone through her own profound NDE. She's written a book. She's just obsessed with talking about NDEs, just the same way that I've been obsessed with talking about Mandela effects and the world and what reality is. She's equally obsessed with the NDE. And I get that. When I went through my God experience, I always relate it back to very much like an NDE. It had a lot of the same components of an NDE. So she's really pushing it, but she's also pushing it from kind of the love and light new age side, which I get that. I get how she wants to keep it positive and vibrational energy and all that stuff. So the sad thing about that is that they push that, and then they put their own spin on it. So they're not being honest. You know what I mean? It's like, give me the experience as you experienced it, and don't try to interpret it or give me your meaning of the world. I just want to hear the experience. I mean, but you run out of things to say. You can only tell your experience so many times, and then after that, if you're going to talk, you got to talk about your worldview, I guess. So I can't falter for that. I do it too. Everybody naturally does that. But I'm listening to her, and she's got a guest, and the guest went through a near-death experience, but he also is very, love and light, new age, and he's astral projecting his body, and he's going out of it. So 5 years later, he had a hell experience, encounter with demons, all that. He didn't want to talk about it. He doesn't like to talk about it, but he thought it was important to bring that experience up in this conversation with her. But he wanted to be respectful to her and her channel. And he asked, I don't know if you want me to bring this up because, it's kind of dark and negative. And that's a perfect example. I almost wanted to spotlight that, him talking about his dark experience 5 years later, leaving his body and being attacked by demons. He didn't want to bring it up because of the worldview of the people around him, the group think, our desire to please people around us. He knew that channel and that platform wanted to keep NDEs positive and only wanted to talk about positive near-death experience, nothing negative. On the flip side, there might be a hell and brimstone preacher, somebody that's really wanting to preach damnation and hell. They might do a channel that focuses only on hellish NDEs. And you got to admit, fear is a motivator. It's probably the strongest motivator we have. It manipulates, it controls, and it pushes us one direction or another. That's the story of Ebenezer Scrooge. It was the fear that made him change the person he was. And it seems like a lot of these NDEs, people have that hellish experience, and that fear often, not always, but often does change the person that they are and the way that they live. But is that the way it should be? Is that right or wrong? It infuriates a lot of people. I don't know. And I don't know the truth of the matter, but I'm just bringing this point up because I can see where different platforms, whether the motivation is to sell books or to sell a religion or to sell a belief system, like, New Age, if it's selling, whatever it's selling, people naturally want to pick and choose the experiences that people have and just share that version. And then the other one is the academics, who I really don't care listening to these guys. They've got a degree and all this stuff. They haven't experienced an NDE themselves, but they think that they know what it is, so they're going to try and write a book about what it is based on their outsider view. And there's one guy that's pushing hard to try and still prove that it's still all natural. It's not spiritual in any way. Like the soul can't really continuously live outside of its body. And now they've got these theories that consciousness actually is in every cell of our body, the DNA, the cell, and this is why DNA is so important too. Think about these I can't say the word, the V word, that is rewriting our DNA. We've got world organizations that are asserting authority over the entire world, global control, and saying that they have the right to demand that you rewrite and change your DNA. And then we have doctors who are naturalists saying that, oh wait, I think that the consciousness is in our DNA cells, and that's why these people can experience consciousness outside after their heart and their brain stops. They still, it's in the dying cells, which could last 10 hours after they die. So that's one explanation I heard somebody going with to explain how it's not, we really don't have these experiences. But to me, it's ludicrous. To me, it's ludicrous because it's been proven over and over and over again that the soul can go outside the body, or they are extremely. I mean, you've got a case for extreme psychic ability too, because they're reporting events that are happening sometimes down the block in perfectly the way it happened. There's no way that cells in a body are able to pick up on that information. And there's so many accounts of miraculous comebacks, miraculous recovery, and special gifts. They come back from their NDE and they have new gifts, new abilities, new compassion for people in the world, and psychic abilities and all that stuff. And I've experienced that, I guess, with my God talk. I came back with this ability to see reality change around me. It was kind of a gift. And that was my gift that I received. It was actually about 5 days later. I was, asked, "What do you want?" I don't know why. I don't know why you get a parting gift. It's like you go to the party and you get a gift when you leave, but you get a gift. I got a gift. My wife got a gift. When she had her near-death experience, she got a gift. She came back extremely clairvoyant. Extremely. I mean, it is undoubtedly we've seen it demonstrated so many times. So I'd love to get into a whole video stream on NDEs and how fascinating that is. But I'm sorry I got off on the tangent here. This was all about defibrillators and the heart. There is a theme with Mandela effects around the heart. The heart doesn't seem to stay in the right location. It goes from the center of the chest and then it's off to the right some. We remember it being off to the right, but we've got the center thing going on. There's heart themed Mandela effects, which I think is also interesting. And this is another heart themed shocking Mandela effect. I got so annoyed at first when the Mandela effect came about, or at least when I was seeing the Mandela effect. All these videos would just come out with people making stupid faces and their mouth was open and the words shocking, shocking Mandela effect. Remember that? It's probably still doing it. I'm just not keeping up with it. But I got so tired of the word shocking, and here I am. I'm guilty. I'm using shocking, but it makes sense. Defibrillator. Anyway, that's it for today. Hope you have a great weekend, and God bless.